sometimes you just got to shut up and press record. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. It's been a while since I put out a podcast. Several different reasons for that. Excuses, I like to call them. We still do want to make the video where we give the girls a chance to respond to the Should Guys and Girls Be Friends talk. We have a few ladies, solid ladies, lined up for that. So hopefully that gets going soon. I actually don't plan on leading that discussion. We're going to leave it completely up to the ladies on that one. But what I started off saying, shut up, press record, hit publish, whatever you want to call it. I hear a lot of people nowadays, and it's been a trend, seems like it's only skyrocketing even more now. They want to start a podcast. There's a lot of people in my circle, too many to count, more than a handful, that's for sure, who are actually starting a podcast, which is a good thing. I really do encourage everyone to start a podcast. I think anyone that can have a conversation about anything, talk about anything, has any interests in which they can talk about it well, and maybe even be above average when it comes to those interests, they have the opportunity to start a podcast and help other people out talking about that same thing. So I encourage it. Start a podcast. Like I always tell the audience here, I started this podcast to grow my communication skills, and I think my communication skills have grown as a result of a few things, but a big one would be starting this podcast and being able to hold conversations better, being able to talk to people, ask questions, get more information out of whoever I'm sitting with here in the studio, on the podcast, talking to. So yeah, I would think with all of these new podcasts popping up, I'm hearing a lot of, I don't know where to start. I don't know what equipment I need. I don't know, what to even talk about, which if you don't know what to talk about, that's the first thing you probably need to figure out when it comes to starting a podcast. What are you passionate about talking about? I wanted to start a wrestling podcast, honestly. God convicted me of that, not in a bad way. It was just like, I didn't have the time. So, yeah, I started it, and then I kind of was just like, I shouldn't be doing this. I got to use my time in better places. Hopefully producing more content for this podcast. But, yeah, people are starting podcasts, and it's interesting. It's interesting to hear the different dilemmas that they go through when it comes to putting out that first episode, because there's a lot of people that I know that still haven't put out that first episode, but they're in the process of buying equipment, writing the content that they want to talk about, stuff like that. And even people that have recorded their first episode or recorded some sort of content when it comes to their podcast, but saying, I don't really like the way it turned out. I wish I would have done something better. Let me re-record it. Let me do something different. I was just texting a couple buddies of mine, and a couple of them are kind of struggling with this idea and just starting and hitting publish. And I was just letting them know, like, a lot of what my favorite creators talk about when it comes to publishing content. I think, Think Media and those guys over there, Omar, and I forget some of the other people's name, they are big on, you just got to press record. And a saying that I've been saying a lot lately, so I've been taking that saying and kind of making it my own, is just shut up and press record. So stop making the excuses. Stop saying I can't do this because of this, or I need this before I do that. You don't. You just put out the content, and whoever listens. Your audience is going to be, just think of your audience as zero at first anyway, because this is something new for you. So your podcast audience, just think of it as zero, and you're just posting these pieces of content, these podcasts, whatever it is, to grow yourself, really, when it comes to being a content creator, when it comes to pushing conversations publicly. And that's the best advice that I would give everyone. That's the best advice that I would give anyone asking, where do I start with the podcast, and how should I go about creating the content, is just push out the content, whatever it is. Even if you think it's bad, do it. You started a podcast for a reason. So put out the content. Your audience will grow, because the key is always consistency. And that's just about with everything. If you're consistently posting content, I'm preaching to myself, because I am pretty inconsistent when it comes to posting content on this podcast platform. And Hopefully that gets better. Hopefully I get to a place where it's on more of a set schedule and not when I feel like it kind of thing. But if this is something that you really want to do, for sure, consistency is key. If you're posting, maybe you're starting out every other week, maybe you move up to every week, maybe you go twice a week. I don't know what the schedule could look like, but consistency is key is what I would say. And yeah, the content that you post will continually get better naturally. You shouldn't expect to be perfect on the first episode. And if you are perfect on the first episode, great. But like I said, your audience is basically zero, so you probably won't see the results of how perfect that first episode is. But it's always good to do things with excellence. So I'm not saying, post out crappy quality content. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, content posted is better than no content posted at all, because you're never going to post perfect content. So I would encourage you with that. If you're thinking about starting a podcast yourself, just start posting stuff. Just start having the conversations. Start writing stuff down that you want to talk about. Start thinking about the people that you want to get on for your podcast or whatever type of content you want to create, and just start going. Just start doing it. And it's a lot easier said than done. Always will be. But you just got to do it. Analysis paralysis is real. And if you overanalyze everything, you're going to end up doing nothing. So that's really all I got to say. That's really what was on my mind. As far as this podcast goes, I've had a couple people ask me when's the next episode coming out, and I have been busy actually. A lot of photography jobs have been coming in the last few months. So I've been busy with that, editing, all of that. So I don't really want to edit this podcast, to be honest. But it's honestly not that much work. I just have been lazy. And that's the main excuse that I'll give myself is I need to stop being lazy. I need to practice what I preach, press record, put out the content, press publish, and keep it moving. Because I do have a lot of conversations, even in my notes, with specific people in my life that I would like to talk through certain pieces of content, topics. All of that would be really cool to do. So, and I've been leaning more towards hustling, getting into getting more well-known, higher profile names when it comes to getting people on this podcast. So I might try to do that. We'll see where that goes. I know it's going to take a lot of effort, work, communication. But I think it shouldn't be too hard, honestly. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Exciting things happening for the future of this podcast. I definitely want to change the name of the podcast. Right now it's been Medina Mania, but the last few episodes I haven't been really talking about like branding and name and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see what happens. If you have any suggestions for what you think this podcast should be called, let me know. We deal a lot with a lot of like Christian topics, so it'll probably be something along those lines, Christianity, or I don't know. We'll see. When it's just me, I don't really talk too long. We've been going for less than 10 minutes, and I don't really want to force anything. So, yeah, love you guys. Talk to you soon, hopefully. If you know anyone that would be a good feature on the podcast, feel free to comment, send me a DM, whatever it is. Yeah, love you guys. Peace.